Why be you when you can be new? Name the movie and win a prize. Footballers today are the equivalent of nothing more than walking, talking Yu-Gi-Oh cards, with clubs spending way too much money on them and swapping and trading until they manage to get their hands on a card better than the one they started with. To put it bluntly, sometimes you start with a Monster Reborn and end with a Blue Eyes. And the same can be said for Liverpool. Sometimes you've had a player in the ranks who at the time maybe was decent or was as effective as a plaster or an axe wound, only for them to be replaced by the newest and shinier model to the benefit of all involved. This could easily become a series because after all, the aim of the game is improvement, but how about today we just focus on 10? It's time to go beyond the Kop and look at the 10 times Liverpool upgraded players. And while you're at it, why don't you upgrade to a subscriber? Click subscribe and you'll do just okay, thanks, bye. Number 10, Nigel Kloff to Stan Collymore. The list isn't in an order because in the words of Shakespeare, that I ain't got time. Either way, the decision to replace Nigel Kloff with Stan Collymore was a decision as good as peanut butter and chocolate. Now, Nigel Kloff was never an awful player, but apart from a brace on his debut and his brace against Manchester United on the 4th of January 1994, his impact at Liverpool was minimal to say the least. This led to the Reds signing Stan Collymore in the summer of 95 to fill the void in attack, and boy did he fill the void, forming one of the Premier League's deadliest striking partnerships with Robbie Fowler, scoring 35 goals in 81 outings, and seeing Kloff moved on just 5 months after the arrival of the man who made Kevin Keegan's hair even more grey. Number 9, Lloris Karius to Allison Becca. Some things you just can't come back from. For Hodgson, it was losing to Blackpool. For David Cameron, it was sticking his political party in a pig. And for Lloris Karius, it was that night in Kiev. Now, up until that point, the German goalkeeper was viewed as a future mainstay number 1 with a bit of a faulty streak that needed to be worked on, as evidenced by his mistake against Bournemouth in that horrific 4-3 loss back in 2016, which was 10 years ago. Stop passage of time. Then the Champions League final happened, and oh boy, that faulty streak turned into a streak in the pants of every Liverpool fan who thought Karius would still be our main shot stopper. Instead, he was sent on loan to Besiktas to get away from the heat, and we went on to sign Allison Becca that summer, who has now gone on as one of the greatest goalkeepers in the history of both Liverpool and the Premier League. Number 8, Abel Xavier to Steve Finnen. Abel Xavier holds the prestige of being the last transfer to take place between Liverpool and Everton, an unfortunate incident which occurred on the 30th of January 2002 for around £800,000, with no intention other than to fill the gap at right back following Marcus Babel's tragic diagnosis with Guillain-Barré syndrome. The transfer didn't work, and Xavier, who fell out with Gerard Houllier, was shoved out the door alone to Galatasaray, being replaced by Steve Finnen the following summer, who would play for us 217 times across his 5 seasons at the club, winning 4 trophies and cementing his lineage as one of the most consistent performers of the Benitez era. Number 7, Emre Can to Fabinho. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not for one moment saying that Emre Can was a bad player during his 4-year stint at Liverpool. He was a solid, versatile and tactically astute midfielder who could have become a big part of Liverpool going forward if he'd stuck around beyond the expiry of his contract in 2018 following the aforementioned Champions League final loss in Kiev. Sadly, that didn't happen and he moved on to Juventus instead, meaning Liverpool branched into the transfer market with the aim of bringing in a defensive number 6, and in doing so, we ended up finding the defensive number 6, Fabinho, a man who could switch between cement solid brick shithouse and creative playmaker in the blink of an eye. While Chan certainly wasn't a bad player, there can be no doubt that the impact Fabinho had following his arrival from Monaco was nothing short of revolutionary. Number 6, Naby Keita to Dominik Szoboszlai. Expectation was an absolute killer when it came to Naby Keita at Liverpool. Well, that and the 21 separate injuries he suffered, which caused him to miss 113 matches across his 5 years with the Reds. But honestly, who's to say what's more at fault? Keita was just inconsistent. He would have one game which reminded us about the immense talent he possesses, but then would go through a 6-match stretch of looking like a blind man staggering around the pitch looking for change. Thus, he was released at the end of his contract in 2023 to be replaced with the one and only Dominik Szoboszlai, both in terms of position and kit number, with Szoboszlai at times this season carrying Liverpool in a way that Keita never did, scoring some top quality goals and running more across one match than Keita did in 100. It's cruel to say, perhaps, but we can only judge what's in front of us, and because of injury, Keita never was. Number 5, Igor Biscan to Momo Sissoko. Sometimes versatility can be the undoing of a footballer, suddenly becoming a jack of all trades and a master of none. Igor Biscan was one such example for Liverpool, being bounced around different positions like people wish they could do with Sydney Sweeney, joining in the summer of 2000 and being played at centre-back, right-back, left-back and being used at midfield at times, meaning he was never able to settle into a spot on the pitch, and bar a purple patch en route to us winning the 2005 Champions League, Biscan couldn't cement himself as a vital component of the Liverpool squad, seeing him sold in 2005 and replaced by Momo Sissoko, who's the personification of look at me funny and find out. He was strong, skillful and possessed a smile capable of making Ted Bundy rethink his actions. He wasn't around for a long time, leaving after just under 3 seasons, during which time he played 87 times and won an FA Cup. Number 4, Alberto Akalani to Felipe Coutinho. The signing of Alberto Akalani circa August 2009 was doomed from the start. Brought in to replace fan favourite and potential future Liverpool manager if the club get their act together, open their eyes and realise slot is not the answer, Xabi Alonso, for him to instead get injured and spend the majority of his time at the Reds, either on the treatment table or out of form. And after he was deemed surplus to requirements by none other than Roy Hodgson, he was sold to Fiorentina in 2012, leaving a gap in the centre of the pitch which was unlikely to be filled by the likes of John Joe Shelby or Charlie Adams. So instead the club went out and signed one Felipe Coutinho the following January, who had gone to become the best midfielder in world football at the time and would play a key part in our phenomenally exciting 2013-14 season, before he was sold on to Barcelona for a staggering £142 million in 2018. Akalani could be considered a deeper midfielder than Coutinho, but he was there to provide creativity, which was replaced, matched and exceeded by Coutinho. Number 3, Christian Ziege to John Arne Riise. Talk about a hassle that wasn't worth it. Liverpool's attempts to sign Christian Ziege from Middlesbrough in 2000 was a complicated one, which led to us having to pay a fine of around £20,000 because, according to Middlesbrough, the approach for the left back was illegal, and we ended up paying £8 million instead of the supposed 5.5, which was agreed earlier on in the discussions. Was it worth it? Well, he would play 32 times and eventually find himself glued to the bench before leaving for Tottenham just 1 year later, so no, I don't think it was. So that summer, Liverpool decided to strengthen the left-back spot by bringing in a calf muscle-taken human form. Riise joined from Monaco and would spend 7 years at Anfield, scoring some of the greatest goals of our Premier League era and winning 7 trophies along the way. Safe to say, he was a damn sight better than Ziege, who, yes, won a form of the treble, but played as big a part of that as De Bruyne did at Crystal Palace. Number 2, Fernando Torres to Luis Suarez. This one is subjective. Alright, I'm not in any way, shape or form saying that Fernando Torres, who for a period of time was the best striker on the planet, was bad for Liverpool, but if anyone says they knew that we would find someone who could be deemed better following his controversial £50 million sale to Chelsea in January 2011, then they are lying. Torres was a sensational talent, but Suarez was just out of this world. He tore Premier League sides apart for just over 3 years, breaking a myriad of records and forming the iconic SAS partnership with Daniel Sturridge in the process. He would pick up 82 goals and 29 assists in 133 appearances, win the PFA Player of the Year award and the Golden Boot in 2013-14 before moving to Barcelona in the latter year, where he would win 13 more trophies and break every record under the sun. Number 1, Ricky Lambert, Fabio Borini and Mario Balotelli to Roberto Firmino. Yes, it's 3 players, but they are all equally short and will be treated as such. Between them, they will play 102 times for the Reds and score just 10 goals. Balotelli scored the most. That's how bad it was. We all remember the meme. We all remember seeing them run around like they were trying to get away from a swarm of bees, so we desperately needed to strengthen up top if we were going to have any hopes of fighting for higher positions in the league. Christian Benteke was a decent attempt to do so, but the real hero was Roberto Firmino. Not a striker as such, but his historic evolution into Liverpool's false 9 would set us on our way to winning almost every trophy possible, including a Champions League and the Premier League. And add to that he alone literally scored 11 times the goals that the 3 previously mentioned players did, ending a spell at Anfield in 2023 with a record of 111 goals and 72 assists, walking away as a true club icon.